My family has left me because my sister blames me for her split. After years, I get an email out of the blue that tells me everything and backs it up with proof. I messed up her life that way. I was kicked out of my family's life and out of the house almost 7 years ago. I, 29M, was 22 years old at the time and didn't have enough money to rent a flat by myself. What happened was so fast that I hadn't had any time to mentally or financially get ready for it. All of this happened because of my sister. There is a big age difference between me and my sister Hannah, 37F. We have never been close. She married Pete, her 39-year-old boyfriend of 3 years, when she was 27 years old. They were married for 3 years. After 3 years of marriage, they split up because Hannah said Pete was having an affair with one of my friends. When I graduated from college, I moved back in with my parents because I wanted to save money before I moved out. My parents were also fine with that plan, but only until my sister told them she was getting a divorce. The other day, she just came home crying so hard and told everyone that she was getting a divorce because her husband had been cheating on her for 6 months. Following this, she blamed me for putting my friend in touch with him. My friend who is 28F, was trying to put on weight, and Pete, who is a certified dietitian, decided to help her. It turned out that she was the one Pete had been cheating on my sister with. I had introduced her to him. I was shocked by what was going on because Emily and I weren't close, but I knew she was a good woman who would never sleep with a married man. Pete was also really not like him when he cheated. It was hard for me to believe that he had cheated on Hannah because he was crazy about her and only said nice things about her. I didn't believe her at first, but my parents did. They didn't even question her, even though she never had any proof that he was cheating. I won't hold that against them because they would pick their own daughter over their son-in-law no matter who was right. They quickly kicked me out because Hannah said so, which I didn't understand. She just screamed and threw a fit one day, and somehow got my parents to kick me out because I was the one who introduced Emily to Pete. For some reason, she told my parents that I was killing her marriage, and they agreed with her. I was heartbroken and tried to stop my parents, but they wouldn't listen to me and threatened to kick me out if I didn't leave. I lost my family and my home all in one day and had no idea where to go next. I cried out loud on the sidewalk with all my things for about an hour before I could get myself together and spend the night at a friend's house. For the next few days, I tried to get in touch with them every day but failed. My friend was kind enough to let me stay with him until I could find my own flat. Sadly, my parents were pretty sure I was wrong and that I was the one who caused the split. Before they kicked me out, my parents told me they were horrified by what I'd done, which didn't make sense because Pete had cheated on his wife with someone else. I couldn't call them because they had blocked my number. When I went to visit, my mom told me she would call the police if I didn't leave. Finally, I understood that they meant what they said and did blame me for what had happened. It didn't come as a surprise to me because my sister has always been the favorite child. Because my parents didn't really want a second child, I was always on the outside. I didn't mind this much as a kid, but I had no idea it would lead to something so big. Today, I guess I should have seen it coming, but to be honest, I don't think anyone in my shoes could have seen something like this coming. Anyway, for the next 2 weeks, I tried to figure things out on my own to make sense of everything because Hannah and my parents had pretty much cut me off and there was no way for me to reach them. Pete blocked me too, so I couldn't talk to him either, which didn't make sense to me. Hannah and Pete had both moved out of the house they used to live in and into living with their parents, so I couldn't find him either. I couldn't get through to anyone, which is why I turned to Emily, my last chance to find out the truth. It was true that Emily and I were not very close, but I had to do what I had to do. I just asked to meet her one day and tell her what was going on. It was very clear that what she was saying about Hannah's affair was not true when I asked her. To be honest, I did believe her. Emily told me she had only met Pete a few times for work reasons. She said there was no romantic interest between them and she didn't understand why Hannah would say such bad things about her. It was even said that she had been with the same boyfriend for 2 years and was going to get married in a few months. What she told me was much more believable than what Hannah had said. She even showed me pictures. I didn't have any proof, but I had a feeling Hannah had been lying about why they were getting a divorce. I couldn't go back to my family though, because I didn't have proof. I couldn't go back at all. I really wanted to live with my family again at that time because I missed them so much, even though they had hurt me, but I was able to move on with my life after some time. I found a place to live and made my job the most important thing in my life so I could keep my mind off of things. Since I had to pay the bills, it was a better way to deal with my problems than just being sad. Since I didn't have any other choice, I was really hurting, but I knew I had to keep going, even if my family wasn't there for me. Things are going much better for me now that years have passed. My girlfriend of 2 years and I got engaged about a week ago. We also moved from a small flat to a much bigger one. And our post about engagement changed everything for me because I was able to get a job a few days after that post. There was no way that I could have expected to get an email that not only told me everything I needed to know about Hannah's split, but also had proof attached. I'm engaged to Liza 30F, and she usually only wrote about us on Instagram. But the picture from our engagement made it to her Facebook feed where she could reach more people. A lot of people saw it because it was a public post. Pete, who used to be my brother-in-law, he was someone my fiancée met at a training a few years ago because she is a doctor. She ended up adding him on Facebook, which is how he found me. For the first time, I felt good about how small the world really is. A few days after we posted, he got in touch with me. He chose to send me an anonymous email instead of calling me on social media. In retrospect, he said that he did this just to make himself feel better about what he was doing. It had been a few years since his divorce, and he didn't want to look like a bitter loser who still hadn't moved on. He was the one who blocked me in the first place, so getting back in touch with me about something that happened so long ago made him feel awkward and guilty. What was in the email I got? It told the whole story and showed proof of what happened 7 years ago. When I read it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It turns out that my sister cheated on Pete, not the other way around as she'd been telling us for a long time. Not only was that a big lie, but it was even more interesting that she had been cheating on Pete with my friend just like she said he was. My friend Frank, who was 28 years old, worked as a cashier at the grocery store near Hannah's house at the time. I would never have thought to connect them because I had never seen them together. They must have kept it a secret, but not long enough for Pete to not find out. If Hannah was asked about it, she told Pete that it was all my fault because I had set her up with Frank and told her that he needed her help because he wanted to be a singer, and she was a pretty good singer herself. They met when she decided to help him, and then they fell in love. She even said I knew about it and had helped them hide things for so long. It was clear that the whole thing was a lie, and I had no idea that Frank and Hannah were seeing each other. He was so mad when he found out that he blocked my whole family. He now knows that what he did was pretty stupid, but he was so mad that he hadn't given it much thought. That's right, he told me all of that in person because he didn't want his personal information to show up in the email, but I did figure it out. He added proof in the form of several screenshots of emails between my sister and Frank. In the emails, they talked about how easy it is to trick Pete and included confessions of love and plans for where they would meet next. She couldn't say anything different because she signed off the emails with her given name, which not many people know. I had her dead to rights. Looking through Liza's list of Facebook friends helped me figure out that Pete must have been the one who sent me the email. I had a feeling that this had something to do with social media, so I contacted him when I finally found him. We agreed to meet a few days ago, and he told me that Emily, who had met him a few years ago, told her what Hannah had told her family. I told her to keep my side of the story to herself, and I felt bad about it when I realized that she would have told Pete about it if I hadn't. I could have proven my innocence a long time ago. They ran into each other a few years ago and she asked him about the split. Their conversation led to him finally learning what Hannah had told us. He told me he wanted to tell me the truth and talk to me about it but didn't because he felt weird. Pete's behavior that makes me feel bad would have made my life a lot better, I swear. But I did forgive him because I knew he would help me destroy my sister completely. Hannah had been lying to my parents so that she could get money while she was going through a divorce. She even blamed me because she knew I had one talk with Emily and would know the truth. Even more so because they were connected to me by blood. I couldn't believe someone could be this selfish. During her divorce, I'm sure she didn't try to set the record straight, either. And my parents believed all the lies she told them. That woman knew she would be in a lot of trouble if our parents found out she had been cheating on us. She just couldn't take that chance. Okay, it was a shame, but it was finally out and I was going to use it to ruin her life just like she did to mine years ago. Thanks to luck, my family hadn't moved in 7 years, so I wasn't sure if they were still living in the same place. Before I showed up, I checked with an old neighbor and was glad to hear that Hannah was still living with them. That didn't come as much of a surprise to me because Hannah had always been a couch potato who hated doing any kind of work. If she could live with her elderly parents and make them do all her chores, she would. Anyway, 2 days ago, Pete and I showed up at their house out of the blue. We walked in right after my mom opened the door, so she barely had time to process what was going on. Hannah and my dad were also in the living room, and we were all happy again as a family, but not for long. As soon as we walked in, their faces turned sad. My dad started to threaten us right away, saying he'd call the police if we didn't leave his house right away. I shot back, telling him he could do whatever he wanted as long as he read the papers we were about to show them. My parents looked very confused, but Hannah looked like she was going to throw up, so she told them she had to go to her room. It didn't make sense for her to try to run, but I thought she was. Pete then showed me the divorce papers and copies of Hannah and Frank's emails while I told him the real story. My grandmother's diamond ring was a family heirloom, but Hannah couldn't pay Pete the money because she's a high school teacher, so she had to sell the ring instead. Pete also told my parents about the deal. They were already shocked by what we had told them, and that made it even worse. Watching the drama unfold, my dad asked Hannah to explain what had happened. When she refused to tell the truth despite all the proof against her, my dad quickly kicked her out after putting her things in bags and giving them to her. He told us all to leave their house right away. Like I did all those years ago, my sister asked my parents to let her back in, and I didn't need to be told twice. She was left with Pete. This was the best kind of luck, and I'm so glad about it. My sister just got to my house a few hours ago after being gone for a few days, putting pressure on me to fix things with my parents right away. Even though I didn't know how she found me, I told her I didn't know anything about her. I fixed her up after she messed up my life once, and now everything was fair and square. That woman must have lost all respect because as soon as I told her that, she broke down in tears and called me a monster. I didn't care much for her drama though, so I shut the door and let her cry for hours on end. While my fiancée Liza worked in her study, I put on my headphones and listened to music. That way neither of us would be alarmed. She finally left us alone after a while, but she left a note on my door with a marker to tell me that I was just a mean person out for revenge. To be honest, I don't think what I did was wrong and don't feel sorry for it at all, but Hannah seems pretty sure that I'm the bad guy here. I just told her since our parents kicked her out, she has to find a new place to live and pay for her own food, power, and rent. This makes her mad. That's why I don't feel too sorry for her. Okay, just so you know, I did block her number a few times. But I guess she's adding me to conference calls with her friends, so it doesn't matter. My parents are just as bad as Hannah, if not worse. They found me on Facebook and saw the post that said I was getting married. They want to be a part of my life again, and have even said they want to come to my wedding. They still haven't said sorry, but for some reason they think I'll just ask them to my wedding, which is a very important day for me. Where do these people get the nerve to say such stupid things? At least I'm not replying to any of it. Liza and I are having a great time reading their texts because we don't think they're real. It's also sad for them. Change 2. Hannah showed up at my house again after I said I would report her for abuse the day before. She threw herself across the hood of my car and wouldn't move until I spoke to her, which stopped me from going to work. It got really annoying, and this time I ended up calling the cops. They took her away while she screamed and cried. She did her best to make me look like the bad guy, but no one bought her sad girl act. It took a while to file charges against her, but I left for work right away because I didn't want this small thing to ruin my day. She was my parents' favorite, so I thought they would bail her out anyway. I was right, and they did. After getting her out of trouble, my parents sent me a long text message saying I was being too hard on them for a mistake they made almost 10 years ago. When my sister and parents put me through that, it was funny because it wasn't honest or even a mistake. Even though they knew they were being mean, they still threw me out on the street even though they knew I had nowhere else to go. I don't see a reason to be kind and forgive them now that I can do the same to them. I told my parents in a text message that they were wrong to think that they could tell me what I could and couldn't do 7 years ago. I haven't blocked them yet because I haven't had time to read my texts, but I will soon. Then, I hope I'll never have to deal with this family again, only to find that my parents had sent me another long message. I swear this was the funniest thing I've ever read. Liza and I read it together. The poor people probably don't even know that what they say or do doesn't bother me anymore. I can't stop laughing at how stupid and pathetic they are. According to them, they still think of us as family. They told me that they've taken Hannah back in because they think both of their kids deserve a second chance. Like I was ever wrong. But they also expected me and Liza to come over for dinner soon so we could work out our differences in a civilized way before the wedding. This is why they took my sister back. They were brave to think I'd want them at my wedding in the first place. We laughed a lot about their stupid message, and then I wrote back right away to say that I had no interest in anything they had asked us to and was happy living away from them like I had for 7 years. They taught me that I was better off without them, and I would always be grateful for that. There was no longer any reason for me to need or want them to forgive me so they could continue to be a happy family with my sister like they had been. I stopped them for good with that last text because I didn't want the laughs any longer. I was done and left. They'll try to get in touch with me soon, but I'm not going to put up with it anymore. Liza is the only family member I need right now, and I'm okay with that. Unfortunately, my dad and sister have never been able to see beyond themselves. The next time they talk to me, I doubt they will ever be able to do that either. They promised that they would also talk to my lawyer.